This is my portrait of Andrew Lincoln, who plays Rick Grimes on AMC's The Walking Dead. Remember to follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook to see these type of pictures and more, nation.
The Walking Dead, Issue 10.
Well, hello, my brothers and sisters of the Nerd Nation. I, as always, am Jim, here to bring you another review on the dark and gruesome tale of sorrowful loss and just really ultimate loss, and that's The Walking Dead. Our last chapter left you hanging over here as Carl and Rick and Tyreese went off hunting to try to find some food for the survivors that obviously were starving. They needed food, and Carl was accidentally shot by some mysterious man that they found in the woods. Rick put a gun to his head and was like, "I'm gonna fucking kill you," and pretty much almost did kill him. Tyreese then informed Rick that, hey, Carl's not dead. He's still breathing down over here. So that's where we left off. That's right where we pick up. And Rick kind of stops and he's, comes to his senses there. He's not just going to kill a man in cold blood. He's certainly not happy with him, but he's like, whoa, Carl's alive? What are we going to do? What are we going to do? Oh, we got to stop the bleeding. We got to do this. We got to do that. So we got to get back to the RV to get the med kit. Well, the gentleman introduces himself as Otis, and he says, he's just a real country bumpkin, nice country feller. And he basically says, "Mister, I didn't mean to shoot him. I didn't mean to shoot your son over there. And a friend of mine got a farm not a mile from here. He ain't a doctor or nothing, but his son got shot in the foot, and he took the bullet out and fixed him up real good. He may be able to help your boy. It's not a mile from here." So Rick's like, okay, I can do that, a mile. So, they flip him over, roll him onto his coat, him and Tyreese. And he tells Tyreese, listen, go back to the RV, tell Lori that everything's fine and just meet up with us over there. So Otis gives him directions and they go and they part ways. And Rick goes, obviously running off. And like I said, man, this for me is a moment that really gets my heart pounding. And it's because I have 3 kids and I could not imagine one of them being hurt or shot when one of them falls and twists their ankle or scrapes their knee, it's excruciating for me because you want to be able to take away the pain and you can't. You can only try to help them and comfort them the best you can. So Tyreese goes running back to the RV, and of course Lori and everybody they're in a panic. What the hell? What happened? Did you shoot? We heard a shot. What happened? So Tyreese basically just says, "Listen, we were mistaken for zombies. By this hunter, this person in the woods that was hunting. I shot Carl, but he's okay, and I'm gonna take you to him." And Lori's like, "Where? She's freaking out, concerned mother. Obviously, she's pregnant on top of it, hormones bouncing everywhere. So everybody's gonna go pack up in the RV and hightail over to Herschel's farm. We then go and kind of see an overhead shot of this farm, and it looks like he's got a nice expanse of land, several acres. He's got a nice 2-story farmhouse. He's got a barn. And then it goes and it takes us to Rick running up with Otis right behind him, and Otis basically going and saying to Maggie, which we find out is one of Herschel's daughters, the man who owns the farm. He basically says, "Where's your daddy? Where's your daddy?" And she says, "Oh, he's in here." So all the confusion comes to a head real quickly, and basically everybody, it's all hands on deck. Everybody's working hard together to try to save Carl. Okay. And this man Herschel, and we're introduced to him as Herschel, a couple pages later, but for the sake of argument, it's Herschel. That's his name. Him and some of his people that are there on the farm, his kids and that sort of thing, they're helping out to get Carl, stabilized, to get him. He wants to get this bullet out right away. He can't tell how bad it is yet. He knows he's lost a lot of blood. Of course, Rick's freaking out. He's a concerned parent, and Otis is just beside himself. This fella, he truly looks like. He's just like in the corner, like frozen. He's got blood all over him, and he's just thinking, man, I can tell what's going through his head. He's not happy about what happened. So shortly thereafter, the rest of the survivors, our main group of folks with of course Glenn and Dale and Carol and Tyreese and all them and Lori, they all show up in the RV, and Lori's charging in the house. What the hell happened? Where is everybody? And Rick's like, listen, it's okay. This fella's in there working on him. He seems to know what he's doing, and all we can do is wait and find out. So Herschel comes in and emerges shortly after that, and he basically says, your son was very lucky. The shoulder, it hit him in the shoulder, and it didn't penetrate his shoulder blade. It landed and went against the bone, so I was able to take it out. It didn't, fragment or hit. He said if it was an inch over to the left, or if it had dug itself in deeper, it would have went through his lung, and then there'd be nothing I can do for him. So he's very lucky. And Laurie says, what can we do? And Rick says, what can we do? And he says, listen, what you can do right now is you can pray. Okay, he says, because I've, asked for a prayer to be answered for the last few months, and God hasn't really been on my side. We could really use your prayers right now. So he introduces everybody. He's got a ton of kids, and in the actual TV show, he's only got a few kids, and there's some of them are different in here and stuff like that. So I might wind up messing up some of the names, but he's got this eldest daughter, and her name is let's see here, eldest daughter Lacey. We've got Lacey, and we've got Arnold, who's some big-looking feller with a ponytail, and then we've got Maggie, we've got his son Billy, and then he looks like he's got two younger ones, two twins. And I don't know how integral they're going to be to the story, but he's just kind of introducing everybody to him. He then goes and explains that the man who shot him is Otis. Him and his girlfriend Patricia have been staying with them since the shit hit the fan with the end of the world and the apocalypse, because Herschel's place is safer than where they live up the road. So they kind of all just help each other out. They live off the land. They've got plenty of food. And he basically says, listen, while your boy is healing up over here, you guys are welcome to stay here. And and then he goes and tells his oldest daughter, the kind of smug-looking, chubby one, Lacey. He says, take them and show them around the farm and this and that. And I'm sure that Rick and Laurie will want to go in and see their son. So Alan, the guy who lost his wife in the last chapter, is still just fucked in the head, right? And he's just like, go ahead, we're not going to come with. And he's just withdrawn, not taking care of his kids or anything. And Andrea's like, listen, I'll take the kids. I'm sure they'd like to go on the tour of the farm, see the cows. And the kids are, yay, they're all happy. And of course, they just lost their mother a week ago, and now their father is just mentally not there, So they go take a tour around to the farm and kind of, this is where this is where that is. And Tyreese goes off and introduces himself to Otis, and you can tell Otis is just real shook up, and he's just like, mister, I'd never heard anything. I mean, even when I kill an animal, I only kill it not for fun, but because we're going to eat it, And you can just tell that there's a lot of hurt. He didn't, I didn't mean to do what I did, and if that boy died, I would have expected to be killed by that man, And Tyreese says, listen, we've had a bad run of luck over here, this guy Alan, his wife was just killed last week, and now Rick's son was shot, and he just kind of snapped, and he's basically trying to apologize for Rick, wanting to kill him. So it winds up then going and showing a quick exchange between Andrea and Alan. She goes and catches up to him, off away from the kids and stuff. And like I said, you got to remember, this guy's got two kids, okay? And I get it, okay? If I lost my significant other, I would be devastated. But ultimately, my job as a parent is to make sure that my three kids are okay. I would not neglect that. You can mourn and cry and weep and everything when they're sleeping or when they're not present, but you have to still be a father. So that's just my take on it. It's been a week now. Get over it, dude, okay? But he's over there moping, and Andrea basically comes over and tells him what I just said. He says, you got to get your head out of your ass, man. These kids. And he says, oh, what do you know about loss and this and that? And I was floored, right? Because like, who the fuck do you think you are? Andrea just lost her sister, her younger sister, who she was like a mother to, just a couple of weeks prior to that, right? And she was reserved and quiet for a couple of days. But she points out, you know what? Even though that wasn't right, guess what? I don't have kids to take care of, dude. You got to put your shit aside, man. You got to think about them. So there's this exchange between them, and he goes and drops some pretty bad words to her, and calls her a couple of very, very derogatory names that I don't want to repeat here. But basically, he's just kind of like, who the fuck do you think you are to tell me, but I got to man up and this and that. I can do what I want. I think about my kids every day, because she pulls that card. She says, aren't you thinking about your kids? And he says, I think about them every day. And as a matter of fact, that's what I'm thinking about now when I'm all depressed, that they're going to grow up without a mother, So anyway, they kind of just agree to disagree, and pretty much he tells her to fuck off, and but she gets her piece in there. So a lot of good development happens in this chapter, so this may be a little bit of a lengthy review. I'm trying to get through all of it so I can convey all of it to you, obviously the folks that are viewing this video. So we then go in and go back to the house. Carl is now awake. We can assume it's later on in the day or the next day or whatever, probably later on in that day. Carl is awake, and everybody's excited about that, and they talk to him, and first thing he says is, "Where's my hat?" He wants his hat, the one that his father gave him, that Rick gave him, the sheriff's hat, or deputy's hat. And Tyreese comes and he says, "I got you, man," and he gives him his hat, and he says, "I was just holding it for you." Carl didn't even realize he had been shot, is the short and skinny of it. They're talking, and he's just like, he doesn't remember any of it. He lost a lot of blood, he was unconscious. So anyway, Carol and her daughter Sophia come in and say, "Hey, can we come talk to, Sophia wants to see Carl." And they say, "Oh yeah, no problem." So Sophia goes in there and climbs in the bed and starts goofing around and talking to him. And she says, I thought it was cute because, the kids are 7, 8 years old. And she says, "Oh, yeah, how did it feel to get shot?" And he says, "I don't even remember it. He says, I'm sure I'll probably have a big scar." And she goes, "Oh, scars are sexy." And he goes, "Sexy? You don't even know what that means." And she goes, "Neither do you." And Carl goes, "Yeah, but you're the one that said it." And it was cute because I have kids, man. And that's the type of conversations you hear come out of, the mouths of kids. And so they have a little bit of an exchange and talk with each other. Everybody's going to get ready for dinner, and right before that, we see a quick exchange between Dale, the older gentleman that was banging Andrea, and that has the RV and everything like that. And Dale is the one that originally warned Rick about Shane and that he was eyeing his wife and everything else. Well, he goes and says, "Listen," he goes up to Lori and he says, "Listen, I just need you to listen. I'm just going to talk and say my piece. I don't want to argue and have this get into any type of accusatory thing. But here's the thing, man. Rick is the backbone of our group, okay? And basically, if he thinks that this baby is not his, or that if you even think that there's an iota of a doubt in your head that it could be Shane's and not, Rick's, just go to the grave with that shit, okay, for the better of everybody. Because if Rick falls apart, we're all fucked." And that's basically what he says. He's like, "I'm not judging what you did. I don't really care whether you did or not, so you don't got to get into this defensive argument. I just want you to know that Rick needs to keep his mind right." And that's what he's telling her. Rick has got to keep his mind right because he's the guy that's going to lead us. He's the guy that's going to take us to the promised land and keep us alive, okay? So he basically says, "I appreciate you listening to me." And Lori doesn't say shit the whole time, which is contrary to the person that Lori is played by in the actual TV show, but that's another story. So then they say, "Okay, it's time for dinner." Everybody kind of sits down at dinner, and he's got this, it's a nice farmhouse, man, built probably 100 years before, and a nice big long table, and everybody's eating, and they're all excited about everything, and and they're talking about how, "Tyreese, this must be how you felt when you first came upon us, and you were starving, and we had all those canned, like canned food." And these people live off the land, man. So I'm sure they probably got chickens, they got all kind of cows, so they got meat on the table, they got vegetables, potatoes, right? And certainly this is something that they were starving. I mean, they were just a few hours before we're pretty much at the edge. So after dinner though, Rick and Herschel go out and talk with each other, and Herschel basically says, "Listen," he tells him his story. He says, "I was a veterinarian. That's what I wanted to be. This is my father's farm, second or third generation, and I just didn't want to be a farmer. I wanted to be a veterinarian. So that's what I did, and I did that up until my wife died. And after my wife died, 5, 6 years ago, the business fell apart. She's the one that took care of all the bookkeeping, the business end of things." He said, "So about 5 years ago, it was my father's dying wish, to work on this farm, the family farm, and I came back and I did it." And he basically says that, there's a certain type of independence and good feeling that comes from being able to live off the land, and he goes, and especially is useful in times like these, right? The world has ended, can't run down to the Walmart anymore. So I definitely see where he's coming from. And then he says, "You're welcome to stay here as long as, until Carl gets better. You don't want to be bringing him out in the elements anyway. It's still cold." And Rick says, "I appreciate that." And he says, "But there's not much room in the house, so, you guys will be okay in your RV, though, at night. And then during the day, of course, you can, at least you're safe. You got food. You can wander around, do whatever you want." So Rick goes and he says, "Well, can't we all just bunk up in the barn? I mean, that RV gets pretty stuffy over there, and I mean, we'd be happy to do that, right?" And Herschel, this is completely different from how the show took place. We didn't know what was in the barn for a while. And Herschel goes, "No, you don't want to go in there. That's where we keep our dead." And you're like, "What the fuck? That's where we keep our dead?" So you don't know if he keeps his dead that are buried, or, what do you mean that's where we keep our dead? And Rick's just kind of like, "Huh?" So that's how the chapter ends, right? And I'm certainly looking forward to diving into the next one to find out what did you mean by that, Herschel? So all in all, it was a very fun chapter. I think it was kind of action-packed. There was a lot of character development. There was a lot of this and that going on to push characters forward down their paths a little further. And, I just think it was very good. So let me know what you think, Nation, in the comments down below. Feel free to give me a like or a thumbs up if you think I deserve it or I've earned it. And certainly subscribe if you haven't done so already. We'll look forward to catching you in the next one, Nation. As always, thank you for watching, brothers and sisters. Be sure to subscribe and take a look at some of my other videos. Thanks. See you next time, Nation.